Hello again. In this video, I'll be talking to you guys now about the Cleric class and just some useful information about them from character creation, subclasses, level up choices, and just kind of overall gameplay. Right now, what I've been kind of using is there's a character in the game called Withers, who you can pay him 100 gold to change your class, so it's been kind of helpful with these kind of things, rather than trying to like recreate a character and getting them to level like 4 or something. So I've taken Shadowheart here and just made her as a new cleric. So I can kind of go through a few things here. But clerics are really a good class. They're kind of like they're a mix of a healer, support. They can be a damage dealer. They can be annoying. You know, everybody can find something to do as a cleric. They do a lot of their healing, support, and damage via like the list of spells and abilities they can pick based on what domain they pick as their subclass here at level 1. And also sometimes with your deity and whatnot. Wisdom is their primary attribute for pretty much a lot of what they use and do, like their class abilities, for example. And they are proficient in wisdom and charisma saving throws. Their hit dice is a d8, so when you do a short rest, you'll heal with a bunch of d8s. They can use simple weapons, light and medium armor, and shields off the gate. So what I'm able to use right away is a mace and a shield. I can just kind of go about my day. They worship a deity, which gives them a lot of their powers and just kind of ties into those domains they pick. As far as like a race for this, I feel like I have a tendency to lean more towards like the gnome, for example, for if you're going to do something that you want to have those ability bonuses for, like saving throws for intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, or an elf because you get dark vision and a free cantrip, humans because you can do a lot with them, Dragonborn clerics so that you get an extra bonus attack as your breath weapon, Dwarven clerics because you're resistant to poison. Like, there's a lot of different choices that you can choose, and quite honestly, like in this game, they're all beneficial. And I feel like it's really like how do you want your character to play as? Do you want an extra breath weapon? Pick a Dragonborn. You want an extra cantrip? You want to pick an elf or half elf. You want to be able to see really far in dark vision? Take a Duergar dwarf or drow elf. You want some bonuses to saving throws and things? Pick a gnome or halfling. Or you want to really smash things in the face? Pick a half orc. Like, clerics really can play at almost any race in the game, which is really beneficial. From an attribute perspective, I would say, like I said, you want to have most of your points in your wisdom just because that's your spell casting ability and everything. But also you're going to want some points in strength, constitution. I'm going to bring all these up to 10 just because I like things being at zeroed out. You could have your charisma down to nothing, really, and give yourself this, so you have a +2, or you have your bonuses to your dexterity, which will then go into your armor, so you can have some higher armor. But by having that high wisdom, all my wisdom saving throws and wisdom checks, and there's abilities I'll go over that really tie into your wisdom modifier. So having that higher is almost better than certain things. As far as like skills, really, history, religion, those are kind of staples as a cleric. You're not really going to be persuading too many people. Charisma's not really part of the game as this class. This kind of gets me now into the domains, and I apologize in advance because there's just a lot to go through. I mean, they have 7 domains to choose from, and each one, they all have a very similar concept of you get an ability, You get certain spells at different levels. You get bonuses to your existing abilities from earlier that I'll talk about. So let's start with the life domain. So life domain is really an aspect of just the good deities, and they're helpful for basically healing. You want to be able to more be focused on defense and restoring HP to your team. At level 1, you gain the Bless spell and Cure Wounds. So what Bless does is it gives you the ability to choose up to 3 characters and give them all a D4 bonus to their attack and saving throws. It does require concentration, so that's kind of the downside of it. But on the plus side, your allies at a low level are getting bonuses to their attacks and saving throws. So you could cast this, go sit behind something for a little bit, and you'll be good. That's part of the reason also why I gave her some higher constitution. Cure Wounds, you have the ability to heal somebody for 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. And at higher levels, that d8 will increase by 1. So like what I mean by that is like right now it's cast at a level 1 spell, it's going to be 1d4, but for every level above that, it's an additional. So if I cast at level 2, it's 2d8. I think I said 4 because I saw the number 4. My fault. It's not a d4, it's a d8. You at level 3 would be like a 3d8 and so forth. Part of your subclass feature as a life domain cleric, you get this thing called Disciple of Life. And basically when you cast a healing spell, the target gets an additional HP equal to 2 plus the spell's level. So if you cast a level 4 healing word, they're going to get healed for 4d8 plus your wisdom modifier plus another 6 because of this ability. And like I said, with my wisdom so far, I'd be getting like a +3 to all of this. I'm going to jump around domains a little bit here from the level 1 perspective, and as I get to higher levels, I'll go through them. Actually, no, what? Screw it. We're just going to stay with the life domain. At level 2, you get an ability called Preserve Life, where you can heal yourself or your allies for 3 points plus your cleric level. So if you're a level 2 cleric, that's 5 HP to them. At level 3, you gain some spells. You get Lesser Restoration, which basically allows you to cure a disease, poison, paralyze, or blindness effect off of a creature, and you can cure any disease or condition that was per cast on them. So let's say somebody is hit with the stunned condition. You could just, Lesser Restoration, bye, you're good to go. If you cast Aid, which is the other spell you get, at level 3, you can choose a creature and increase their maximum HP and current HP by 5 until the next long rest. So you're level 3, you cast Aid on the frontline fighter. They're gonna last a little bit longer. At level 5, you get 2 new spells, Revivify and Beacon of Hope, where Revivify lets you revive a down party member and restore them to 1 HP. It's the equivalent of a revive spell, or the revive spell scroll, sorry. Or you can also go back to town, or to camp, sorry, if you have Withers in your team, you can pay him 200 gold to revive somebody. But if you don't have the gold, or you haven't found Withers, the revive spell is a good thing to keep in your back pocket. Beacon of Hope allows your allies to regain their max HP possible, and they have advantage on wisdom saving throws and death throws, even though this requires concentration. The ability that you can heal somebody back to their max HP is crucial. Like, let's say your barbarian he's about to lose the fight against the dragon. Boom, Beacon of Hope, HP's back to max. They're ready to go. Blessed Healer, when you cast a healing spell of level 1 or higher, it heals for 2 plus your spell's level instead of 1. Sorry, I regained. Let me. What? Oh, this is the equivalent of what you do now with any healing spell, but now it's any spell you do. Or any healing spell of level 1 or higher, sorry. So it's everything on top of all of this, I would say, probably. At level 7, you gain Death Ward and Guardian of Faith as your spells at that level, or additional spells, I should say. Where Death Ward, basically when a creature is targeted by a spell that reaches 0 HP, they automatically return to 1 HP. So let's say like you cast Death Ward on the wizard, because let's be honest, the wizard's going to go down. It happens. Rather than them dying, they'll come back at 1 HP. Guardian of Faith calls forward this spectral guardian to come in and attack enemies for 20 radiant damage if the enemy fails their dex save. But the guardian takes that damage themselves. So if they dealt 15 to an enemy, they're going to take 15 damage. They have 60 HP, so once they've received 60 damage, they just vanish. At level 8, you get Divine Strike Life, which is basically when you hit on an attack, you can add 1d8 of radiant damage to the attack. At level 9, you get some of your higher healing spells for this domain, such as Mass Cure Wounds and Greater Restoration. Mass Cure Wounds lets you heal up to 6 creatures within, or heal up to 6 creatures for 3d8 plus your Wisdom modifier, and then that d8 increases by 1 per level cast above 5th level. So if you cast at level 6, which is the highest level spells you can get currently in the game, it would be 4d8 plus your Wisdom modifier. So you're going to heal them for, hopefully by the time you've hit level 9, you've maxed out your Wisdom, so that's going to be a +5 off the bat. So if you cast this at level 6, you're going to be healing them for like 9 to 37 HP for 6 people, which is pretty potent. Greater Restoration, you can end an effect such as Charm or Petrified on a target. You can end a curse, and this could be like a curse on a weapon or something that reduces somebody's attribute scores. There are enemies out in the game that will drop your strength by 1 every time they hit you, or your constitution. But by having Greater Restoration, you're able to end that effect that's reducing their max HP. And this is kind of the theme for all of these domains, is that at levels 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, you gain new spells. At levels 2, 6, and 8, you gain either an ability, a bonus to your initial level 1 subclass ability, or you gain damage of a d8 to insert, element type here. Moving on to the light domain clerics. The light domain clerics, these are ones you're gonna most likely want to pick a deity that is like surrounds themselves around justice and things like that. So like Tyr, for example, I believe is the god of justice. But at level 1, you gain a cantrip instead of just spells, but you gain what's called light, where you can basically just put light on an object and it will just light up the room. So let's say you put light on somebody's armor. When they're walking around, they're basically walking around like a free torch. It's great. You also get access to Fairy Fire, which surrounds the creature in light, and makes attack rolls against them have advantage. It is a concentration spell. But being able to give your teammates advantage on things, like a rogue, for example, at level 1 with sneak attack, you're going to be rolling through enemies pretty quick. And Burning Hands, is a level 1 spell that you gain that deals 3d6 fire damage to targets within range. They do have to make a dex save against your spell DC, but if you have high wisdom at a lower level, that should be pretty hard for them to get past. You also have your level 1 class ability, which is Warding Flare. You can use your reaction to give it a disadvantage on the thing that it's attacking, as long as they're not immune to being blocked. So basically, you give them disadvantage, the enemy, on attacking you, which is really nice. At level 2, you gain Radiance of the Dawn, which basically lets you dispel magical darkness. There's spells out there that will encompass the area in darkness that everyone's blinded. If you were a light domain cleric, you could use this ability and now you're good to go. You're negating that spell, which is nice. At level 3, you gain Flaming Sphere and Scorching Ray as your spells. Flaming Spear lets you summon literally a ball of fire, or a sphere of fire, I should say, that deals 2d6 fire damage, or half as much of that on a successful save. It also will lighten up the area about 6 meters, and as a bonus action, you can move it around the playing field. Scorching Ray is like Magic Missile, but with fire. So you get 3 rays of fire that do 2d6 fire damage each to their targets. Level 5, you get Daylight and the Fireball spell. Daylight, you can enchant an item to dispel any magical darkness, or create a sphere that does the same thing. So you could take your mace, enchant it, so that anywhere there's magical darkness, you can just go right through it like nothing happened. Fireball, I feel like, classic D&D kind of thing here, but you launch basically a ball of fire into a vicinity, dealing 8d6 fire damage to the targets, and then half as much on a successful save. Pretty potent fire spell. At level 6, you get the improved version of Warding Flare. Basically, it's the same effect as before, but it ignores a couple things to kind of help you out. So it's just a better version of it. Level 7, you gain the Wall of Fire and Guardian of Fire spells. Basically, it's the Guardian of Fire is very similar to the Guardian of Faith, but it does fire damage instead of radiant damage. But same thing, when it takes damage, it'll disappear after it's taken enough. Wall of Fire creates a long wall of fire here that lasts for 10 turns and deals 5d8 fire damage to targets who walk through it or end their turn in it, kind of thing. At level 8, you get to add your Wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with your cantrips. So let's say at level 8, you have a +5 to your Wisdom modifier. When you cast a cantrip, now you're going to be doing a little more damage, which is nice. Level 9, you gain Flame Strike and Destructive Wave. So Flame Strike basically calls forth a pillar of fire that's going to deal 5d6 fire damage and 5d6 radiant damage to a target, half as much on a successful save. That's kind of the trend here in the game. If they pass your save, they take half damage. If they fail the save, they take all the damage. Destructive Wave is it goes out in a radius. Everything must make a con save or take 5d6 thunder and 5d6 radiant damage upon messing around with that. So your light domain cleric you're battling mostly magical darkness and you have fire. Lack of a better term. What? Oh. My notes are out of order, that's why I was confused. The Trickery Domain. Tricky Domain, you're really good at it's charming, disguise self, or disguising yourself. Really just kind of tricky, if you will, hence the name. At level 1, you gain 2 spells. You get Charm Person, which lets you charm a target to gain advantage on charisma checks against them, and they won't attack you. And Disguise Self lets you magically change how you look, at least on the outside. Well, look on the outside. You know what I mean. And then, as an action, you gain something called Blessing of the Trickster, which gives an ally advantage on stealth checks. So let's say you have a rogue and you want them to really be stealthy, you could cast Blessing of the Trickster, and then as long as you maintain concentration on them from a distance, they'll be good to go. At level 2, you get, it's called Invoke Duplicity, and basically you can summon an illusion to distract enemies, and then your allies have advantage on attacks against that creature if they're too close to that illusion. So it's a way to kind of, again, honestly, I feel a Tricky Domain Cleric is going to play really well with someone like a Rogue, because you can impose advantage for them so that they can get their sneak attack and just wail on things. At level 3, you gain Mirror Image and Pass Without Trace. Mirror Image lets you create 3 duplicates of yourself. And each one that's alive increases your AC by 1. When you're hit with one of these, more or less, or one of those illusions will disappear and your AC will drop by like 3. So let's say you had 16 AC and you cast this. Now you're going to have 25 AC for like a while until you get hit, and then you drop down to 21, 19, 16, and so forth. Pass Without Trace is amazing for if you're trying to sneak through an area, because you get a plus 10 to your stealth checks. So those folks that are running around in heavy armor and have disadvantage on their stealth rolls, even with disadvantage, a plus 10 is going to help, hopefully. At level 5, you gain Bestow Curse and Fear. Bestow Curse basically lets you put a curse on an enemy to give them disadvantage on any checks, saving throws, and attack rolls, and then you also deal more damage against them, or you can choose to say, nope, you don't get any actions this turn. Fear, they'll be frightened of you, and they will not move, and just be easier to hit because, well, they're scared. At level 7, you gain the Polymorph and Dimension Door spells. Polymorph lets you transform a target into an animal. There's, I believe, a list of animals you can transform them into. And then Dimension Door lets you transport yourself and an ally to a place you can see, the caveat being that the ally must be medium or smaller. At level 8, you gain that D8 extra damage, and in this case, it's poison damage dealt to the enemy as when you do a melee weapon attack. Dominate Person and Seeming spells are what you gain at level 9. Dominate Person, basically, you can make them fight alongside you, and then when it takes damage, it needs to make a Wisdom saving throw to try and break the spell. But you can basically, like, hey, I want you to fight for me. And hopefully, they fail their save, which is always fun. Basically, for Seeming, it is basically Disguise Self, but you can cast it up to 4 people at a time. So rather than casting Disguise Self for everyone in your party, you could I call it basically Mass Disguise Self. Let's be honest, that's pretty much what it is. The Knowledge Domain. Knowledge would be this is if you really want to double down and have a boatload of skills and kind of support spells, from being able to put things to sleep, holding people in place, confusing them, and just getting more skills and proficiencies and things of that nature. So at level 1, you get these 2 spells. Sorry, let me go back to this. Let's see here. Did it do it? Let's see. I'm supposed to get. Yeah. So it gave me expertise here in Arcana and History, and I didn't have. Where's my religion? There's religion. Yeah, so it gives you it gives you bonuses to a couple skills. But in addition, you also get command and the sleep spell, where sleep at level 1 you have 24 points to kind of use to um, put enemies to sleep. So what it ends up happening is if you have two goblins that are low, like 8 HP and 2 HP, that's 10 points out of your 24. So you have 14 more points to use on the third goblin that, let's say, has like 10 HP. It takes the number of amount of HP they have, subtracts it from 24, and as long as you're within that 24 when you cast it, they'll fall asleep. The condition ends if they take any damage, but it's one nice way to just nope, put that guy to sleep and let's just walk past him. Command, basically you're commanding something to run, move away, freeze in place, drop their weapon, or drop to the ground. It's a way to just kind of be like, hey, don't do that. Imagine spraying them with a water bottle or something, like Bad Goblin. You'd just be able to kind of control the battlefield a little bit better with this. At level 2, you gain proficiency in all of the skills that use the chosen ability that you pick. So basically, it's very similar to what the Gith gets, where you can say, I want to gain proficiency in all strength-based skills. Example for this is like you would gain, let me rephrase this. If you chose gain proficiency in all the wisdom-based skills, you would get proficiency in like Arcana, for example. At level 3, you gain 2 spells called Calm Emotions and Hold Person. Calm Emotions, basically, humanoids cannot be charmed, frightened, or raged. Basically, like you just nope, you can't frighten me and do that kind of stuff. Hold Person, basically you paralyze a creature, meaning they can't move or attack. And then melee attacks against anyone who's being held is an auto critical hit. And then that target can make a wisdom saving throw at the end of each of their turns to try and break your spell. At level 5, you gain Speak with the Dead and Slow. Speak with the Dead lets you ask a corpse up to 5 questions. There are some corpses that you can't speak the dead with, which is a little obnoxious, but eh. And then Slow, you can choose cause up to 8 creatures to use half their movement speed. And then their AC and Dex is reduced by 2. They can't take reactions. They can only take an action or a bonus action, but not both. They cannot attack more than once per turn, and spell casts might be delayed. So, let's say they cast a Fireball spell, it may not happen for a turn or 2. Really an easy way to kind of just control everything, control the battlefield. At level 7, you gain Confusion and this Resilient Sphere spell. The Sphere spell, basically you trap a target in a sphere and they can't move. Confusion, you can cause a target to attack at random, wander, or just plainly skip their turn. At level 8, you can add your Wisdom modifier to all of your Cleric cantrips. Very similar to, I believe it was the Light Domain. And then at level 9, you gain Dominate Person and Telekinesis. So again, Dominate Person, you can force somebody to fight alongside you. If they take damage, then they have to do a Wisdom saving throw to try and break the spell. And Telekinesis lets you pick up a book and chuck it 18 meters. And you can do this for 18 rounds. Or 18 rounds, 10 rounds. Nature Domain, think of them as Cleric meets Druid. So one of the first things you get as your ability is Acolyte of Nature, where you can learn a Druid cantrip, and you become proficient in animal handling, nature, and survival skills. You gain a cantrip, Shalega, where you basically can turn a staff or a club into something that's going to do 4 to 11 bludgeoning damage, and use your spellcasting ability for the attack rolls. So if you were to do a Nature Domain Cleric, you might say, screw strength, put it into dexterity so I can get more armor because I'm going to use this cantrip all the time, every time. You gain Speak with Animals and Animal Friendship. So Speak with Animals allows you to basically speak to and understand animals. An Animal Friendship, if an animal has intelligence of 3 or less, you basically talk it into not attacking you, and if the effect ends if an ally attacks them. So you could have a bear that's attacking you guys, you cast that on them, you're good to go as long as nobody attacks them. At level 2, you can charm animals and plants. Basically, use your Channel Divinity spell to charm plants and animals. At level 3, you gain 2 spells called Spike Growth and Bark Skin. Bark Skin, basically you touch somebody and their AC is instantly 16. Spike Growth, you basically make dangerous terrain, and anything that walks through it, their movement speed is halved, and they take 2d4 damage. At level 5, you get Plant Growth and Sleet Storm spells. Plant Growth, basically, you make a 6 meter wide area, and anything walking through it walks at quarter movement. So if it, rather than taking 1 meter of movement to get through something, it'll take 4. So really a nice way to just slow down like a group of people. And then Sleet Storm, it can put out fires, but it creates a ice surface on the ground, making it difficult terrain for basically half movement speed for anything trying to go over it. Dominate Beast and Grasping Vine spells are what we gain at level 7. Dominate Beast, basically you can, it's like Dominate Person, but the animal version. So the beast will fight for you. Every time it takes damage, it can re-roll the saving throw to kind of get out of this. And then Grasping Vine is just a vine that will pull enemies toward it if they fail their save. At level 8, you can add a d8 of cold, fire, or lightning damage when you attack with your weapon. And then at level 9, you get Insect Plague and Wall of Stone. Wall of Stone is just that, a giant wall of non-magical solid stone. And Insect Plague basically makes the area difficult terrain and give whoever's walking through it disadvantage on perception checks. Tempest Domain, basically you control thunder and lightning, for lack of a better term. Not only do you gain some spells, but you also gain heavy armor proficiency. You gain proficiency in martial weapons. And you also gain this ability called Wrath of the Storm, where you can use your reaction to deal 2d8 lightning damage on a failed save, or 2d8 thunder damage on a failed save. So basically your concepts here, you're going to be seeing a lot of thunder and lightning based abilities. That's part of the reason why one of the spells you get is Thunder Wave, which lets you do 2d8 thunder damage, and then Fog Cloud, which will blind anything that walks through it. At level 2, you gain Destructive Wrath, which when you deal lightning or thunder damage, you can use your reaction and Channel Divinity skill to have it do max damage. So if you have a spell that, let's say, does 5d8 lightning and 5d8 thunder, you can use this ability to be like, no, it's going to do the max damage, so it's going to do 30 thunder and 30 lightning at that point. So you can really use this to kind of max out some of your later spells, and even your lower level spells and abilities as you're going through things. At level 3, you gain Shatter and Gust of Wind spells. Gust of Wind basically creates a gust of wind that can push creatures back a few meters. And then Shatter does 3d8 damage to creatures within like a 3 meter radius, and anything that's made of stone has disadvantage on the saving throw that's associated to this. At level 5, you gain Call Lightning and Sleet Storm spells. Sleet Storm, basically, like I just mentioned, I believe with the Druid, the nature domain. It can put out fires and basically creates a floor of ice that creatures might have. They'll have half movement speed trying to get over it. Call Lightning lets you deal 3d10 lightning damage to targets within range. Each turn you can call down lightning again, and this effect will last for 10 turns. Think of it as like a better version of chain lightning or some other of these other spells that last for 10 rounds, but you just continually keep calling it. Thunderous Strike is what we gain at level 6, where when you deal lightning damage to a creature, it's pushed back 3 feet. At level 7, you gain Ice Storm and Freedom of Movement. Freedom of Movement lets you target yourself or an ally, and you can ignore the effects of difficult terrain. And then Ice Storm does 2d8 bludgeoning damage in addition to 4d6 cold damage to targets that are within a 6-meter radius of when the spell is cast. At level 8, you deal an extra d8 worth of thunder damage with your melee weapon. And then at level 9 and 10, you gain Insect Plague and Destructive Wave, where Insect Plague just makes things, like I mentioned earlier, difficult terrain, and they have disadvantage on perception checks. Destructive Wave basically is a large radius spell that requires a con save, or the enemy takes 5d6 thunder and 5d6 radiant damage. Half as much on a successful save, but still, like, you potentially could be doing anywhere between 10 and 60 damage to something, which is really good. Leaves me now with War Domain. So War Domain, you gain proficiency in heavy armor and martial weapons. You gain this subclass ability called War Priest, which when you make a unarmed or weapon attack of any kind here, you can use a priest charge to make an additional attack as a bonus action. You also gain Speak with Divine Favor and Shield of Faith. Shield of Faith basically increases your armor class by 2. It requires concentration. You can also put it on an ally, but again, it's still concentration to kind of keep that. And then also you have Divine Favor, which also does it'll do 1d4 radiant damage to something, but it also requires concentration, which is neither here nor there. At level 2, you gain Guided Strike, which you can use your reaction and channel Divinity skill to add 10 to your attack roll. In the feats option, there's something called Great Weapon Master, where you can take a -5 to your hit, but get a +10 to damage. Well, if you're already getting a +10 to your attack roll, even with that, it becomes a +5 on top of everything else that you're doing with your attack. So, War Domain Clerics, I'd highly recommend taking that feat, just because of just that right there. At level 3, you gain Magic Weapon and Spiritual Weapon spells. Magic Weapon lets you infuse a weapon with arcane energy, basically making it a magical weapon and having a +1 to attack and damage rolls. Spiritual Weapon summons a spirit-based weapon that deals 1d8 plus your Wisdom modifier as force damage to something. At level 5, you gain Spirit Guardian and Crusader's Mantle spells. Crusader Mantle, basically an allies can deal an extra d4 of radiant damage. Spirit Guardian lets you call spirits to protect you within like a 3-meter radius or so, and they deal 3d8 lightning, radiant, or necrotic damage per turn, and half the movement speed of whatever's walking through. At level 6, you can use the Guided Strike or the Guided Strike ability from level 2, where you get that +10 to attack on allies or yourself. At level 7, you gain Stone Skin and Freedom of Movement, which Stone Skin turns you to stone. You have resistance against non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And then Freedom of Movement, you get to ignore difficult terrain. And so do your allies if you cast it. At level 8, your Divine Strike ability is just an extra d8 of generic damage with your melee weapon. And then at level 9, you gain Flame Strike and Hold Monster, where Hold Monster is like Hold Person, where you get to paralyze a creature, meaning they can't move or attack, and then every attack against them is an auto crit. And then Flame Strike calls down that Pillar of Fire to do 5d6 fire and 5d6 radiant damage to a target. So there's a lot of different ways you can play these subclasses. Like if you want to be a healer, Life Domain. You want to be able to take on Magical Darkness, Light Domain. You want to give bonuses to being stealthy, Tricky Domain. You want extra skills, Knowledge Domain. You want to basically be a druid without being a druid, Nature Domain. You want to be Storm and run, doing Storm stuff and just all elemental based things, take this. Take Tempest Domain. You want to smash things faces in without being a barbarian, War Domain. Like, there's a lot of versatility of the cleric. Just a lot of versatility. I'm just going to grab this for right now. And also at level 1, you gain... so that's all your subclasses, but you also gain abilities to your spells. So you get 2 cantrips and then 2 level 1 spells. At level 2, we wait for things to load. At level 2, you gain Turn Undead, which for 3 turns, you can take any undead that's within 9 meters of you, make a Wisdom saving throw, or they run away from you. In addition, you gain a cantrip and a level 1 spell, but also your Channel Divinity. So here's that Guided Strike that I was talking about. But in your Channel Divinity, you are able to use the undead, use a turn undead, and any effect determined by your domain. So but that's really saying it's like, yeah, my Guided Strike is my Channel Divinity ability. So when you use a Channel Divinity piece, that's how you're able to do Guided Strike. So you don't have unlimited Guided Strike, but still, the ability to be like, I really want to take that thing out is nice. At level 3, you don't really gain much other than you now get another level 1 spell, and you get access to level 2 spells. At level 4, you can pick a feat or increase your attributes, and then you get another level 2 spell and another cantrip. At level 5, you gain Destroy Undead. Basically, when you use the Turn Undead and it's a success, they take an additional 4d6 radiant damage on top of running away from you. And you get access to level 3 spells at level 5. At level 6, you get 2 charges now of your Channel Divinity, and you get another level 3 spell. At level 7, you get access to level 4 spells. At level 8, you get an attribute and another level 4 spell. At level 9, you get a level 5 spell and another level 3 spell. At level 10, you get Divine Intervention, which lets you invoke your God's will on things, and basically you can call upon them for help. One thing that the game did not allow me to do as part of this, because this is a predetermined character, at level 1, I meant to also talk about that you can pick a deity as well. Deities really is just who do you want to kind of serve and who do you want to interact with throughout your game. Also at level 2, you get 2 level 5 spells. At level 11, we get access to level 6 spells. And then when we max out at level 12, you get a feat, and you get another level 6 spell. So with clerics, the big like gotcha kind of thing with this is that not gotcha, but the kind of thing with them is level 1 is your big level. Like this is where you're gonna focus yourself and get these extra things. So like at level 3 you get spells, level 5 you get spells, level 7, level 9, you get the spells based on your ability or your domain. At level 8 you get that extra damage based on whatever domain you picked, in addition to a feat. A lot of times it's really just your spells are increasing at that point. So clerics to me are like a really good class to start out with, just because you can be like focused on healing, focused on damage, focused on a little bit of everything, support, and then from there it's just managing your spells moving out. That's clerics for a nutshell. Multi-classing with a cleric. If you pick the nature domain, maybe multi-class into a druid just because you both have wisdom as your primary attribute for things. If you're a war domain cleric, fighter, ranger, barbarian, yeah, a cleric that could rage would be a scary thing. If there's anything that I may have missed, or like there's something you guys want to add to it, like from your experience of playing this class, feel free to add it into the comments or just let me know, and we'll go from there. If you like this stuff, just give me a like on the video, subscribe. It really helps. So what I'm aiming for here, unless I'm just not understanding it properly, like I want to be able to add chapters to the videos here. But the problem is, everywhere I'm looking at, you need 1,000 subscribers before it'll show up on the video. So in the meantime, I'm just going to show the timestamps in the description, because that's the best I can do. Because quite honestly, like I feel it helps a lot, especially when you have a 40-50 minute long video to try and explain all of these different subclasses. Other than subclasses, I'll list a lot of the class information in the description here in a little bit. But yeah, as always, I hope you all enjoy this kind of stuff, and I enjoy making it, and it's a lot of fun. So, as always, happy gaming.